What's going on, everybody? It's Andy the Mad Tatter, and welcome back to another episode of What Sells on eBay. If you're new to the channel, What Sells on eBay is my partially quasi-pseudo semi-regular series in which I take a look at what's sold over on eBay over a given period of time. The period of time in question today, as the title card says, is November the 16th to the 30th, 2019, and we'll get into those items and everything in just a moment. But first I want to give some shout-outs, very specifically to some Australian reselling channels. There's some absolutely fantastic content coming out of Australia. And Aussie resellers in general. I'm going to highlight a few specific ones, but generally speaking, what I've found with the Australian channels is they are very, very natural, normal, genuine people that are trying to sort of just tell you about what they're doing in their business. There's no hint that they're trying to kind of be quote-unquote celebrities or anything like that. There's no sort of personality kind of overload from these people. Not to say that they don't have personalities. They're very, they're all interesting and great people in their own right, but there's no sort of falseness to it, which is something that I really hate in kind of watching some of this content, and why I don't watch a lot of the big channels, just because I find them to be incredibly false people. But you don't get that with the Australians at all. They are absolutely natural. They give you honest opinions and they shoot straight from the hip and hit you right between the eyes. So a few specific shout outs. You've got Brad and Jazz, that's two Aussie thrifters. They deal in a lot of clothing. They'll deal in a lot of brands that you know and a lot of brands that you don't. So it's a really good source of information for those brands that you will pick up in other countries, but the information isn't necessarily out there as much. Also, they have quite an interesting and methodical way of working in terms of how they set themselves boundaries on what they pick up and for how much. Next, you've got Rob, the Aussie VHS Thrifter. Rob pretty much personifies everything that I've just said about people being natural, hitting you between the eyes with their opinions, their experiences, and not pulling any punches. Rob is also hilarious, which again helps kind of get the content across. As the name suggests, he deals in a lot of VHS, but he deals in a lot of media in general as well. And a good thing with Rob's channel, particularly if you're sort of relatively new-ish to doing this, Rob is starting to branch out into other things now. He's kind of hit that point in his sort of business and his reselling sort of journey where he's starting to branch out from his comfort zone. So if you're in that same sort of position where you've kind of got out of, you've been in your comfort zone for a while, you're happy with how eBay works and runs, and you're happy with doing the selling, but you're sort of making that next step into sort of areas unknown and pastures new, Rob, the Aussie VHS Thrifter, excellent source of information, and as I say, very entertaining, very funny as well. Game On Couple, it's Craig and Beck. Now, these guys, I've probably one of the most recent channels I've started watching, but the reason I clicked into their content as much as anything was because I'm relatively clueless when it comes to that certain generation of consoles and games. So when you get into sort of the Wii type generation, and the PlayStation 3 and that all of that sort of era of consoles, that's where my knowledge starts to really falter. And because I've not really been kind of exposed to consoles too much in that generation. So Craig, just for an example, Craig's recently done a video on a massive haul of Nintendo games that he picked up, and there were a lot of new and sealed titles and stuff in there as well. But what was really educational and interesting for me on that video was that he went through this whole pile of games, Wii games, Wii U games and stuff like that, and said, these are games, specific games to look out for. Certain titles that are worth big money, but he also went into a bit more detail on what genres of games sell particularly well on that console as well, and he was really, really concise with it, not sort of long waffling explanations like certain people give. But yeah, he was really concise with it, really to the point, and really natural and watchable people. Since I kind of put this together, and between sort of putting this PowerPoint thing together and then talking about it all and doing the voiceover, I've actually hit onto a few more channels as well. So there's Thrifty Pixie, there's Look Mum I'm Hustling, there's Back from the Burnout. There's so many good Aussie reselling YouTube channels out there. And just because they're not in the UK or they're maybe not in the country that you're in, doesn't mean you can't get something from it. Australia has a lot of unique challenges of its own as well. So for example, straight away off the top of my head, they don't have access to the global shipping program that a lot of other countries have access to for sending stuff internationally. So sort of they have their own issues that are sort of infrastructure issues, both around eBay and around trading in Australia. So kind of seeing how they overcome some of their challenges and stuff like that is also very interesting. So yeah, definitely guys, I would absolutely say go and check out some Aussie reselling channels, just for a totally different perspective, and from some really, really natural and cool people as well. Now I just want to give a couple of updates from my perspective as well. There is currently a sale on the Mad Tatter eBay store. It's up to 15% off. And that covers pretty much everything. If you are a subscriber to the YouTube channel or anything like that, and an item that you're interested in isn't on the sale, do feel free to just hit me up with a message, and we might be able to come to a deal. Not a problem at all. But yeah, that's on until midnight on the 31st of December 2019. That's when the sale ends. So I've also got a URL now, so shout out to Car Boot Chris, and big thanks to Car Boot Chris of Cookie and the Haydens for kind of giving me a little bit of a kick in the right direction for doing this with a URL. I thought about having a URL for quite a while, a website address like this, but I never really knew what I was going to do with it. And through watching one of Chris's videos where he gives a tour of his sort of eBay store online and everything, I found that he's using a URL and just pointed it at his eBay store, which seems like it was one of those, why the hell didn't I think of that moments? So yeah, thanks to Chris for giving me a kick in the right direction for that one. So the madtatteronline.co.uk will take you directly to my eBay store. And just as a little side note on that as well, youtube.com/themadtatter. I've claimed that URL, so that'll bring you straight to the YouTube channel if you're ever desperate to see my content and can't access me through any other means. Another little update, the Mad Tatter now is a UK registered trademark. I own the trademark, and it's my trademark for 10 years. It's UK registered in retail and retail services, which includes presentation of goods over communication media and stuff like that as well. So it kind of covers me a little bit on the YouTube side, but not quite as much as it does on the retail side. Obviously, I had an issue with an imitator a few months ago, which you might have seen a video about. That guy is now no longer on eBay, which is great. Certainly great for the customers that he's fleeced and stuff as well, because I think they've all got their money back through eBay now, so happy days. But yeah, he's no longer on eBay, but I've taken steps to protect the business name, so if anybody does try to open up a retail business under the name of the Mad Tatter now, tries to register that as a trademark or anything like that, or even if they just open a business that's where the name could be, what's the wording in the document, where the name could be misconstrued as being the same business. So for instance, if you open something called the Mad Tatter Shop or the Mad Tatters or something like that, my trademark actually covers those as well. So it wasn't a quick process, and it's something that I'll go into a bit more detail on down the line, but it's something that's quite an important thing, I think, in the modern age, if you are, particularly if you're trying to launch a branded business. If you're trying to sort of have a brand name and a brand identity, protecting that brand is quite important in this day and age. So we're already 8 minutes in, and now we'll get into some items. Thanks for bearing with me on the intro there, guys. 16th of November 2019, we've got the Neon Organics Daily Super Skin Oil 100ml. This was a charity shop pickup. The charity shop that I get these types of items from is located in such a place that they get access to a lot of stock from department stores, independent salons, independent pharmacies and things like that. So a lot of brand new and sealed, premium branded sort of beauty products and toiletries and stuff. They're not always dirt cheap, so what I tend to do is just kind of no hiding it, no sort of subterfuge or anything like that. I literally just go in there with my phone and I zap every single barcode on every single thing that they've got in their bins, and if there's anything there that I think I can make some money on, then I'll buy it. I'm not by any means an expert in toiletries and cosmetics. I am learning, certainly, as I go along, but from the perspective of these types of things, as I say, because they are all brand new and sealed, it's quite easy to just zap them into the eBay app, get a price for them, and then look up the information to put in your listing after the fact. So had a couple of these. This is sort of a general purpose oil that you can use on your face, your body, your hair, and it's slightly scented as well. So these cost $2.99, sold for $22.99. Made $12.27 after shipping and fees on that one. Did give free postage on those as well, with it being a new item. It just kind of helps sometimes push them over the line if there are other people selling them as well. So that was that one. 16th of November again, Caribbean Breeze instrumental CD. This cost absolutely nothing because it was in the box with another item that I bought So I bought a foot spa, I think it was, all sort of brand new and sealed, but the outer box was opened. All of the contents and everything are sealed inside. And this was just randomly in the box. So no cost against it, thought I'll stick it up on its own, see if it sells. Sure enough, it did. Sold for $6.94, made $3.70 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer. Not a massive profit item, certainly, but an easy item to deal with. Doesn't take up any space to store. Doesn't, require any amazing amounts of postage or packaging, and didn't cost anything. So £3.70 for a little bit of positive £3.70 profit and a little bit of positive feedback. Happy days. I'll live with that. 16th of November again. Locksmith training transparent lock set. Something that I did toy with keeping myself, because if you've been with the channel for a while and you sort of listen to some of the things that I prattle on about, I do like sort of small mechanical things, electronic things, and just general tinkering. So locksmithing, I think it comes from my background in the jewellery trade, to be honest with you, and just sort of that sort of small, close work. Yeah, so the locksmith stuff did kind of appeal to me, but making profit appeals to me a little bit more. So yeah, they did go up for sale. Essentially what they are is they're copies of locks that you will find in the real world. So you've got a padlock, you've got a mortise lock, you've got a couple of different types of keyway locks as well there. And the difference being with these that the bodies of them and the makeup of the locks is transparent acrylic, so that when you're picking the lock or raking the lock, you can see how the sort of tumblers and things like that and the pins move and where they should line up to unlock the lock. And you've also got the sort of sample keys in there as well, so you can see how the key actuates the lock versus how you can actuate the locks when you're picking them. So that's a little bit of a quick overview on those. They were a charity shop pickup. It cost me £3 for the set of 4. Sold them for $29.94, made $18.18 after shipping and fees on those. Received positive feedback from the buyer as well. And they were quite a quick sale, those. I think they went within a couple of weeks. 16th of November again. This is the Lou Reed 1989 copy of the New York vinyl LP. Interestingly, this is designed as kind of a, what would you say? Don't want to say a rock opera kind of thing. It's got like a narrative running through all of the songs. So essentially it's designed, and it actually says this on the sleeve somewhere, it's designed to be listened to in one sitting. So you don't sort of cherry pick tracks and pick and choose which ones you want to listen to. You listen to the whole thing start to finish, and that's kind of how it makes the most sense. Also, interestingly, with this particular copy, it had a lyric insert in there with all the lyrics to the songs, but it was in a lot of different languages as well. So I think it had French, German, Italian in there as well as the English. This is one of my parents' vinyl records that they've asked me to sell. So no cost against this item. It was given to the business free of charge. Sold for $44.94, made £34.12 after shipping and fees. Went on the global shipping program to the USA, and we've had positive feedback from the buyer on that one as well. As I've said in previous videos, I've got no aspirations to be a vinyl dealer, because I do find them quite sort of not stressful as such to work with, but the packaging on them, I know how kind of particular vinyl collectors can be. And how they like their pristine sort of presentation of their items. I describe my items as honestly as I possibly can with everything, but I always dread with vinyl because it's quite fragile. Is it going to get damaged in the post or anything like that? So I go crazy with the packaging. So far, so good. I've never had any complaints, but I don't need that headache by having to sell a load of vinyl. So I'm not looking to be a vinyl dealer anytime in the future, but selling these odd ones here and there, not too bad at all. 17th of November 2019, these ladies' Diesel Industry Matic jeans. Diesel, if you watch the channel a lot, I sell a lot of Diesel jeans, I sell a lot of Levi's jeans. I sell a lot of quality jeans in general, to be fair, but it seems to always be a seesaw between Diesel and Levi, who's doing the best. At the moment, they seem to be relatively level pegging, with a couple of other brands that are creeping in as well. But these were a ladies' pair. I always tend to find that the ladies' pairs don't make as much money as the men's jeans. Now, that's just my experience. You might have different experience, of course, but for me, that tends to be the case. The ladies' ones do still certainly make money, but the men's cuts do seem to make a little bit more. These were quite a nice pair. They were a nice classic shape. Not too many sort of bells and whistles or anything on them, and I think that, again, with this particular pair is potentially what might have held them back a little bit, because Diesel generally have a little bit of a creative flair on them. They have some sort of detail on the jeans that makes you think, oh yeah, that's a little bit special. These were kind of just a relatively basic skinny jean in a really light wash. The only sort of major bit of flair on this one was that the branding on the waistband there was embroidered. stitched in, as opposed to being on a patch of any sort. So that's kind of a nice detail, but other than that, not the most stylized pair of diesel jeans I've ever seen. These cost $7.99, sold for $34.94, and made $17.45 after shipping and fees on those. 18th of November, this is the Bosch Professional Drill Driver Battery. Did something with this one that I don't normally do, which was to sell an item untested. Now, the reason I had to sell this untested, of course, is because I didn't have the drill to put it into to make sure it worked. However, I was reasonably satisfied that there was not going to be an issue with this whatsoever, and I'll go really quickly into detail as to why. So for one, it's an accessory battery. It's been bought after the fact. It's not something that actually came with the drill in the first place. So to my thinking, if someone cares enough to buy an accessory battery and have a spare battery like that, they're probably going to be looking after stuff to a certain degree. Obviously, what marks this as an accessory battery is the fact that it's got its own box and its own manual and everything. It's not just packaged up with a drill. It is literally bought as a separate unit. Now, the next thing that I looked at was the overall condition of the housing of the battery. And looking up and down the sort of shaft there, madam, there was no scoring or marks or anything on the shaft there, so it's not been in and out of a drill loads or anything like that. And on the bottom of the battery, there's like a silicone rubber pad, which presumably is for grip when it's on the charger, because this is a wireless charging battery, so you can just drop the drill straight on a charging pad and it'll charge like that rather than having to take it out. The silicone rubber pad on the bottom of the battery, which was a reasonably soft rubber because it's quite grippy, there was not a mark on that either. So I knew that this hadn't had a lot of use. And worst case scenario, if it did turn out that it didn't work at all and the buyer wanted to send it back, I'd only really have been out of pocket £3.50 because it was quite a cheap pickup. Certainly cheap compared to the $53.99 it sold for and the £40.78 profit that it made. Great little profit item, that nice little pickup, and the sort of thing that kind of proves what I always say about things that people buy when they need them. So remotes, peripherals, batteries, chargers, all of those sort of things. If you've got a relatively diverse and large-ish product offering, all of these sort of things are great additions to your product offering. Like I say, I wouldn't necessarily build a business off the back of them because they are sort of one of those items that are only going to be bought when they're needed. But having them as an extra string to your bow sort of thing is definitely worth considering, and that's a nice little profit item, that one as well. Sticking with the 18th of November, another nice profit item and a nice little segue into remotes as well. This was the Panasonic Viera Smart TV remote. This was a tabletop sale pickup. I only paid £1 for it, which is generally sort of average remote money. I tend to pay 50p to £1 for remotes. The difference with this one is that this is for a smart TV, so it's quite a modern remote. And you don't often see these on the sort of second-hand market just yet, I'm guessing because they've not been on the new market for a huge amount of time, so people aren't in the position where their remotes are worn out or anything yet. Outstanding condition on this one. It was in the original bag that it would have come with the TV with, so there's, you know, it was in great, it was as new really in that sense. Tested and working, sold for $35.99. Purely on the basis that it's a smart TV remote, so it's got higher functionality than something like, you know, just a standard TV remote or something like that, and made £25.19 after shipping and fees on that one. And that's pretty much as good a remote sale as you could really ask for. Sticking with the 18th of November, again, if you're sort of a regular to the channel, you'll know that I'm really into a lot of the classic traditional games and classic traditional sort of pastimes in that sense. So I like chess sets, I like backgammon sets, I like dominoes, of course, and all of those sort of things, solitaire games. I love them. I like selling them, I like dealing with them, and they have an appeal to me personally that goes far beyond sort of a 1990s or 2000s era plastic manufactured board game. You know, something like this is kind of a bit more craftsman made and just has that air of quality about it. So these were made out of ebony and bone. They were a dark ebony wood base with as you can see, the bone is obviously the white layer, and then the bone is set with enamelled dots for the dominoes as well. The whole things then were held together with brass rivets. So they were really, really made to a nice high standard. It wasn't actually a full set, this. There should have been 50 dominoes altogether, but there were only 45 in there. Obviously did declare that in the listing. But what made them a little bit unusual is that they're 9-spot dominoes. So where your normal set of dominoes would only go up to sort of 6 spots, these had the 9-spot sides as well. So there's sort of you can have a lot more variety in the games that you play. These cost £2 at a car boot sale. They sold for $39.94, made $26.95 after shipping and fees, and went on the global shipping program to the USA. So happy days on those. 19th of November, we got the Nike ACG Goretex shell jacket. Again, this is sort of a bread and butter item for me in many respects. I started out, when I first sort of started venturing into clothing, I ventured into what I knew first, which was outdoor gear. Just to sort of acclimatise myself and get comfortable with the concept of selling clothing. So this is very much a bread and butter item for me, so I'll give you a quick overview. Nike ACG, so obviously they are part of Nike. ACG stands for All Condition Gear, so it was initially pitched as being sort of a skiing and snowboarding, winter sports type of brand, but they have sort of broadened their horizons a little bit as time's gone on, and they have moved into other things as well. Still predominantly sort of snow sports and winter sports, but you can get sort of certain hiking and walking stuff that's ACG branded as well. Gore-Tex, of course, if you know these sort of things, needs a little introduction. It is one of, if not the most well-known waterproof, windproof and breathable fabric technology out there. And yeah, a great jacket. Nice colour block, colour combination on it as well. Very much the sort of thing that I'd have worn myself a few years ago, in fairness. I was all about a loud jacket back in the day. This one did have a little bit of wear just to the Nike ACG logo on the breast there, but that was obviously detailed in the listing description. So it wasn't sold as in sort of perfect condition or excellent condition. It was very good as opposed to excellent. Paid £10 for this one, which is fine, you know, reasonable amount of money to pay for a Gore-Tex jacket. You know, if anything, that's actually quite cheap for a Gore-Tex jacket. Generally, sort of, I will tend to pay around about £15 to £20 for the right type of jacket. But £10 for this one, about average. Sold for $73.49 on an offer. It was up at $79.99, but had a message from the buyer and thought, yeah, quick sale. It was a quick sale as well. It sold within a week. So yeah, sold for $73.49, made $47.07 after shipping and fees, went on the global shipping program to the USA, and I've had positive feedback from the buyer on that one. 20th of November 2019, this is the Casio Film Watch FS-05NK. This was boxed and as new condition, really. There was no marks on it or anything like that. Even the actual outer dial, the outer screen, that had the original plastic sort of sticker over it as well. So I don't think this has really ever been out of the box. Did need a battery when it came to me, but obviously I had you know, my background's in the jewellery trade, so changing a watch battery is nothing to me. This was a £2 pickup from a car boot sale. Absolutely could not believe my eyes when I saw this, and the guy only wanted £2 for it. Sold for $89.99, made $69.53 after shipping and fees, and it went on the global shipping program to Germany. Now, I could talk at great length about Casio watches. As somebody who's been in the jewellery trade for a long time, and I've dealt with and sold a lot of extremely high-end watches into the hundreds of thousands of pounds, and personally speaking, I have owned a couple of nice watches as well. Nothing up to the hundreds of thousands of pounds mark, but I have had, from memory, a Tag Heuer 2000, a Tag Heuer Kyrium. I've had a Omega Seamaster, and I've had a Rolex Submariner. And all very nice to own, don't get me wrong, but the watch that I wear today, and the watch that has never been off my wrist hardly since I bought it 3 years ago, is a Casio G-Shock 3263. I've developed this love affair with Casio watches, and as I say, I could probably make a video on them just in themselves and prattle on about them for ages. But Casio, what they did in the 90s and the early 2000s, they did a lot of experimental models. Different styling, different technologies, things like that. So you've got things like the film watch, which of course, is, as the name suggests, is very, very thin. The case is literally about 5mm thick on that one. It's very, very thin watch. They also did the C-Sphere range, which were like a space age kind of styling to them. They did the Wave Scepters, which were a radio controlled watch that's set automatically. They've done a lot of experimental watches and a lot of things that you know, a lot of market leading experiments and things like that as well. So some of these more obscure Casio watches can command reasonably good money. And things like the G-Shock watches and the Baby G watches, they have a massive international following and a massive collector's market. So if you wanted to get into dealing in watches a little bit, it's a great place to start because you almost can't go wrong. Even back to sort of some of the 80s and 90s models where they had like the calculator watches, the infrared remote control watches as well that you could control your TVs with and stuff like that back in the day. All of these have a collector's market now, and all of these are reasonably in demand and will command some reasonably good prices. In the case of the film watch here, what made this one particularly desirable, the FS05NK is a dual time model, so you've got an analog display there and you've also got the digital display underneath. You can set those to 2 separate times, so you can have effectively a world time zone watch if you're travelling or anything like that. The LCD display is also completely backlit, so you press a button, it lights up the whole display, much like my own watch does now. Lights up the whole display, and then just in blue rather than in red, obviously. And obviously, as I said before, the case is very, very thin. That was very much the USP of this watch. This particular colourway, relatively, I would hesitate to say rare. It is certainly less common than the yellow one, which is the most common one of these out there, but you also see them in white, pink, and a couple of other colours as well, with varying degrees of rarity. But the thing to know really with these is that the yellow one is the most common one and doesn't command as much money as a result. So nice little sale, nice pickup, lovely profit, something that I could talk about all day, and a great item. 20th of November again. This is the Body Shop Shear Butter Body... there's a lot of words in there. The Body Shop Shear Butter Scrub Bundle. Body Shop Shear Butter Scrub... Yeah, that's what I wrote. Yeah, this is essentially a shear butter body scrub and a body butter that Jo got for Christmas last year. She's not used it, though they were still sealed tubs and everything. There was new toiletries and new cosmetics and stuff coming at Christmas, as there always is. So out with the old, in with the new. This sold, no cost price, obviously, it was given to the business free of charge. This sold for $21.94, made $14.44 after shipping and fees. Then we've got the 21st of November. This was a little bit of a dodged bullet for me in some respects. This is the Superdry Ladies Aspen Puffle Coat. Nice style, as a lot of Superdry products are. A lot of nice details as well. So things like the toggles were all branded with Superdry. They were a rubber toggle, like a really tough rubber rather than a plastic. You've got the thumb hole cuffs on there as well. Obviously the overall sort of puffer style of it is quite nice. It was relatively long line. It was about 3/4 length. Oversized hood with a fleece lining. Just really, really nicely detailed, as Superdry products are. What I did miss on this one, however, when I picked it up at a charity shop, was that there are a couple of little holes just in the very centre of the breast, which looked like somebody had worn a badge on the coat at some point. The reason it didn't go back to the charity shop that I bought it from is because, well, there's 2 reasons. One, the charity shop that I bought it from was miles away, so it wouldn't have been economically viable to take it back. Certainly not in my car. And the other reason was I'd taken the tag off. So in my sort of haste to get it photographed and listed, I whipped the tag off it and then realised as soon as I got it on the mannequin, there's holes in it. So that relegated a coat that I would have probably tried to get around about £60 to £70 for. It relegated it to one that I was just going to try and get 40 quid for. That is, to my mind, how much it devalued it. Now, people that I've shown it to prior to listing it didn't really think it was that much of a major thing, so maybe my own standards were perhaps a bit too high and I could have asked a little bit more for this, but I was comfortable asking that for it. Cost £15, sold for $44.94 and made $18.95 after shipping and fees, for something that I personally think could have quite easily made a loss in the end. Had positive feedback from the buyer, and the buyer's feedback says it was exceptionally well described or exceptionally well illustrated or something like that. So she was obviously very happy with the way it was described and that it was described as it arrived as described. So perhaps my own sort of, I should stop letting my own sort of standards and paranoia affect me that much about certain things. However, I do kind of like to keep a high standard, so I'll just be it's made me a lot more vigilant about picking stuff up in future. I always check things much more thoroughly now as a result of buying stuff like this. 21st of November again. Excuse me, this is the Gear for Angry Birds Black Bomb 30-pin iPod speaker dock with the remote and the charger, all tested and working. As I always say with this iPod 30-pin stuff, a lot of it can be made to work with modern Apple equipment if you use the Apple 30-pin to Lightning connector. And I'll always put that in my listing, that it can be made to work. No, I don't say it can be made to work. What's the wording that I use? The wording that I use is this... it may be possible to make this work with modern Apple equipment through the use of a 30-pin to Lightning connector, which Apple do supply. Apple make it's a genuine thing. Always use the word may, just in case, then they can send it back and, you know, you don't risk that whole thing of it's not as described. Of course, if you do have a 30-pin to Lightning adapter yourself and you're able to test these things, test it and say it definitely works. But the other advantage to this one, and the other advantage, the thing that I tend to always look out for on speaker docks and stuff in general, especially if they're iPod specific like this, if it's got an aux connection on the back there, which is just a standard 3.5mm jack socket, if it's got the aux connection on the back, which this one did have, you can pretty much plug anything into it that's got a headphone jack, so that's definitely worth knowing. So this was tested with an old iPod, and it was also tested with my phone, just plugged into it in the aux socket. Worked perfectly. £2 car boot pickup, so, you know, a nice little bargain, really, from my perspective on that one. Sold for $39.94, made $27.84 after shipping and fees there as well. 21st of November, this is the House of Marbles Premium Crib Board. This was a nice quick sale, thankfully. I picked this up at a fairly lacklustre tabletop sale where I was struggling to sort of find anything to buy. And I'd dealt with House of Marbles products before. I've never dealt with a crib board before. Crib is just a card game cribbage, and the board is used to score the game. I've never dealt with a crib board before, but I do know that some of them can be quite collectible and command reasonable money. The chap that was selling this was an older chap, and I thought, yeah, this guy looks like the sort of guy, and just from speaking to him for that couple of minutes on his stall, I thought, yeah, this is the sort of guy that's got quality things. And he was very much the sort of guy that, yeah, you know card games, and you've got all the best cards and the best, you know, accessories for your cards. I could just tell it about him. There was something about him that just made me think that. So he wanted £3 for this one, which I thought was an absolute steal. Got it home, started researching it, and realised that while it was a steal, it is something that House of Marble still produce now, and you can buy these brand new. $14.99 they sell them for. So I thought, okay, I'm probably going to end up having to drop the price on this significantly, but I'll try $12.99 to begin with and just see if I can sort of, you know, gloss over the mistake a little bit, because with hindsight I paid a little bit too much for it at £3, I guess. So I put it up at $12.99, and lo and behold, it sold within a week. I couldn't believe it, especially as there was $4.95 postage on that as well. So they were effectively buying a second-hand one for a little bit more than they'd have bought a new one for directly from House of Marbles. But yeah, still did okay. Still sort of dodged the bullet. Cost £3, sold for $17.94, made $8.03 after shipping and fees. And again, will make me a little bit more careful in future when picking stuff like this up, just to make sure that I pick it up for the right sort of money. 22nd of November, the Calpol Vapor Nightlight plugin. You've probably seen these on a few videos if you are a regular to the channel. This was a retail arbitrage buy. If you don't know, retail arbitrage is buying new items from retail stores and selling them for a profit. The case in point here is that these were on a final clearance at a discount supermarket, so they cost $4.49 each. Sold for $13.99. Free postage again on those, with them being a new sort of toiletry cum cosmetic type item. Made $3.28 after shipping and fees. I thought I was going to be sort of selling these a lot more regularly than I have done, so the low profit wouldn't have been such a big deal because I'd have had a reasonable turnover on them. But they've not been as successful as I'd hoped. Yes, I've made money on everyone that's sold. I've not lost anything on them, so that's not too bad. But they've not been quite as good a do as I thought they were going to be, those. 22nd of November, this was another bit of a retail arbitrage fail, something that I bought very early on when I was kind of having my first sort of foray into retail arbitrage. I went and bought a load of stuff from TK Maxx on final clearance, and this is one of those items. This is the Pioneer SE-CL502K earbuds. The main thing that's kind of killed the profit on these, because they did start out at $24.99, which was about the going price for them when I picked them up. But the main thing that's kind of killed the profit on these from my perspective is the fact that headphone and earbud technology has just moved on so much. Everybody's gone into wireless now, or they just use the standard kit that comes with their phone, or standard kit that comes with whatever player or piece of equipment that they buy. The thing that held them up a little bit as well, on the other hand, though, is the fact that they're made by Pioneer, so they are a quality brand in that respect, so they did still hold a little bit of value. But I started out having these at $24.99, and I've gradually just had to chip the price away, chip the price away, chip the price away, to the point that they eventually sold at $17.99 and made $5.10 after shipping and fees. They were a long, I had them for a while as well, had them for probably a year, to be fair. So I think, like I say, that a lot of that is down to the change in technology as much as anything else. 22nd of November, this is an absolute star item for this month, and one that I couldn't believe I picked up. This was a charity shop pickup, and I happen to know that this charity shop is quite popular with a lot of the local kids that just do Depop for a bit of pocket money, essentially. So I was very, very lucky to get my hands on this. It must have only just gone out, or very, very soon after it went out, I got in and picked this up. This was the North Face Nupsty 700 down gilet. So it's a padded gilet, as you can see there. It's filled with goose feather and down. And this is actually still manufactured by North Face now. They've changed the style slightly, so this upper portion across the shoulders and up the collar there is slightly more textured on the current version, but this is, other than that, there's no real difference to this version and the current version. Now, as I say, I've dealt in a lot of this sort of stuff, so authenticating it on the fly, it kind of becomes second nature after you deal in a lot of outdoor gear and stuff like that. You'll start to see the hallmarks of a particular brand and how to spot whether or not that brand or that particular piece in front of you is genuine. If in doubt, there's lots of resources out there online as well that you can look up how to authenticate these items. But do always take them with a bit of a pinch of salt, because things can vary from territory to territory as well. So they might have different anti-counterfeiting measures on something that's sold in the USA than they have on something that's sold in Europe or that's sold in, Asia or something like that. So yeah, do take websites with a pinch of salt, but they are still a good source of information in how to authenticate these things. Sometimes, though, and from my own experience with this, both professionally, I've had to learn the hard way in the jewellery trade, and I've had to learn the hard way with some stuff that I've bought to resell. Sometimes the best way to spot counterfeits is just to buy one and know it's a counterfeit, and then from there you can kind of learn about what's not a counterfeit by looking at the obvious mistakes on the counterfeit thing that you've bought. And like I say, I've done that both professionally in my sort of pre-reselling days, and also I have done it as a reseller as well. So this was genuine. It retails, the current model of this retails at £275. It's a really high quality professional grade gilet. It has the interactive zip as well, so you can zip it into a North Face type jacket or any sort of shell jacket with a compatible zip, and that'll give you a lot of core warmth without impeding arm movement, which is something that a lot of climbers, hill walkers and stuff like that are quite into, still having the freedom of movement in their arms but obviously preserving their core temperature. So this one cost a staggering £4. Unbelievable. To be honest with you, even if I'd have known it was fake, for £4 I'd have bought that and worn it myself until it fell to bits, because £4, it was really, it sold for $124.99. It picked up, I can't even think how many watches. I want to say it was on about 8 watches when it sold, and it sold within a week of being listed. So got a lot of traction on the item, got a quick sale out of it, got excellent profit out of it, and also had positive feedback from the buyer. So that's just a home run for me. That's everything that I want every single transaction to be. Good profit, good item, positive feedback. Boom, happy days. So that's probably the star item for this month, in all fairness there. This is also a good item though. This was a car boot sale pickup. This is the Technics SA-K2L radio cassette receiver, which is sometimes known as a Cassio because it does both. This was, as I say, this was a car boot sale pickup, and it was picked up from a chap that does house clearances. Now, this guy, what he does when he does a house clearance, he filters off all of the stuff that he knows about and all of the stuff that he can make is his money on. And then everything else he puts on a car boot sale and just sells for sort of arbitrary figures. So this was, I went and had a look at this, and says, you know, how much do you want for it? And he was quite upfront about it. He says, look, he says, I've not tested it. I don't know if it works. If it does work, I don't know how well it works. It's literally not even been plugged in. So I said, okay, so how much do you want for it? And then he started scratching his head and whatnot. So I just kind of gave him that look of, come on, I haven't got all day, you know. Don't expect me to give you a price because I'm not being the buyer and the seller, so come on. And then he just said sort of £2. I was like, yeah, okay. I hesitated for a moment just to make it look like I was mulling it over, and I said, yeah, all right, I'll risk being bitten for £2. Anyway, as I'm loading this into a bag, he's sort of rooting around under his table there, and he says, oh, I found the manual for it as well. So that was kind of where I knew straight away that this was going to be a good deal. Because even if this was completely shot inside, the condition of it outside looks great, so I had no reason to believe that it, you know, wouldn't work. But even if it was completely shot inside, I know that these manuals, they can sell for £10 to £15 on their own for some of these vintage electronics. So I knew I wasn't going to be out of pocket. I knew I wasn't going to have shot myself in the foot by any means. Got it home, took the top off it just to check that there was no corrosion or signs of any water ingress or anything like that inside, just to make sure it was all nice and clean. It was all nice and clean. All the belt drive and everything on the cassette deck was nice, and you know there was no perishing on the rubber belt or anything like that. There was still grease in there. It was all lubricated up. So this has obviously been very, very well looked after, or very, very well stored by its previous owner. So this one sold for $61.94 altogether. However, $16.95 of that came off straight away for the postage. It wasn't free postage. The postage was charged to the buyer, but because of the weight of it, it went via Parcel Force. So it made $37.50 after shipping and fees. And I have had a message from the buyer to say he's very happy with it, but he's not left me any feedback for whatever reason. 25th of November, ladies Lacoste Divan Lay 3/4 length coat, done quite well with a Lacoste cardigan in the first part of this video, so Lacoste are very much on my radar as a brand that I'm going to start looking into a little bit more and trying to pick up some of their stuff. And this was the sort of first example of that. Ladies, very, very classic style, sort of cotton canvas type coat. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of flair to it. It is quite understated, and even the Lacoste logo on it, rather than being the traditional green-coloured crocodile or alligator logo, it was an enamelled, black enamelled, sort of riveted-on badge. So a little bit more of a, as I say, a bit more of a sort of stealth style to this one than some of the Lacoste stuff, but the quality of manufacture is absolutely superb on it. And yeah, I've been very, very pleasantly surprised by Lacoste because, like I say, they've not been a brand that's been on my radar previously. So this one cost $7.99, sold for $54.94, made $34.47 after shipping and fees, and received positive feedback from the buyer on that one as well. Quick seller, I think this was probably around for about 2 weeks, maybe a little bit over, so it was quite a quick seller. It picked up a few watchers, got some good traction, and got some good attention to the rest of the store as well. So definitely, I would say look out for Lacoste and have a look into them if they fit with your sort of brand identity and your kind of product offering. Definitely something to look into. 26th of November, these have been in a few videos just recently. These are the Hobbycraft Mini Christmas cross-stitch kits. I've got Easter ones as well. Long story short with these, Joe bought them last year with a view to making some Easter and Christmas cards out of. That never happened for whatever reason, so we're now just selling the kits on again. So there's no cost price against them, because they've been given to the business free of charge. They sell for $4.94 pretty consistently and make $1.78 after shipping and fees. Generally speaking, they've been really good for feedback because I've had a lot of positive feedback off these kits as well. So they've been good to get the feedback score up, and they've made a little bit of money here and there. 26th of November, the Super Dry Military Delta shirt, second Super Dry item for the month. Well, second Super Dry item for this part. I can't remember if we sold any in the first half of the month. Probably did. Yeah, this was a really cool shirt. I liked this. Heavyweight cotton canvas material. It could quite easily have been a sort of army surplus shirt with the quality of it and the weight of the fabric. Nice little design touches again, as you always get with Superdry stuff. So you've got the roll tabs on the sleeves there, so you can sort of roll the sleeves up, and then it's got a button tab that will hold the rolled up sleeve in place, very much like a sort of GI type shirt. You've also then got the Velcro patches on the breast, which you can take off the Superdry branded ones, and if you wanted to put your own patch or anything on there, you can do that as well. But yeah, just a very sort of traditionally styled military shirt. I'll always look at military style shirts because they're generally always popular, regardless of whether they are in fashion at the time or not, because they're always popular with people who work outdoors or who work in sort of mechanical environments, things like that, because it's such tough, rugged material, and generally certainly with some sort of surplus shirts and things like that, they can be picked up quite cheap, so they're generally popular for that sort of reason. This was actually sold in a sale. We did have a sale on towards the Black Friday weekend for last month. So this was cost £6, sold for £30.94, and made £15.21 after shipping and fees there. And this one went on the global shipping program to France. 27th of November, one of Jo's ornaments here. Jo's been selling a lot of her own ornaments and stuff to make some money for some of her craft projects, which have been going really well. And I'll leave a link, as usual, to her Etsy store in the description below as well, if you want to check out what she's making. This was obviously this was an item again that was given to the business free of charge. It's a Disney Tinkerbell snow globe. I think we actually got this free as a free gift from the Disney store when we spent over a certain amount one year. So this didn't actually have any cost to us as individuals either. So it certainly didn't have any cost to the business. It sold for £16.94, made £10.32 after shipping and fees. Excuse me, on that one. 27th of November. You might remember this if you've been with the channel for a while. You might remember this from a haul video way back when. This is Hayashis Trains board game. Contents were all sealed on this one. It was an open box with a little bit of cosmetic damage, but all of the contents were there and all of the contents were sealed. This was a charity shop pickup that cost £6, sold for £30.14 and made £15.72 after shipping and fees. Again, that sold in the sale. 28th of November, there's the Vans Crewneck oversized striped jumper. Real grunge vibe to this one. I'm pretty sure there is a picture out there. I kind of have this memory of it from when I was younger, but I'm pretty sure there is a picture out there of Kurt Cobain wearing a jumper almost exactly like this. So it's definitely got that 90s Seattle grunge vibe to it. And obviously being a skatewear thing is going to always be popular with sort of skaters and that sort of fraternity as well. This one cost £3.70, sold for £26.95 and made £14.94 after shipping and fees. 28th of November again, it's the Newcastle United FC Genuine Sky Remote. Picked these up from a charity shop with a couple of Frozen remotes that I sold either last month or the month before as well. They were brand new and sealed, unused items, and official Sky remotes as well. You do find a lot of these non-genuine Sky remotes out there, and what they are is a non-genuine Sky remote to start with that they've then put a big sticker over. So the quality of the remote's not there, but also the quality of the actual items not there either in these imitations. With you can spot the genuine Sky ones because they're actually, for a start, they're a genuine Sky remote. Sky remotes have a little bit of weight to them, but also the plastics are actually coloured. You know, they're actually either printed directly onto the plastic or they're painted or whatever. But there's no way you can kind of pick that finish off there. So that's the way to sort of spot between the genuine custom Sky remotes and the sort of aftermarket ones that are Chinese-made rubbish. Cost £3 this one. Again, sold in the sale. Sold for £22.94, made £14.94 after shipping and fees. On that one, this is a great item for the month. This is actually my single highest value sale on eBay so far, and it also made pretty hefty profit for me. This is the Cassio QT6100 point of sale system. So we've got the Cassio QT6100 till, we've got the Epson TM-T883 printer, and there's an electronic cash drawer there as well. This actually came from my brother-in-law's restaurant. My brother-in-law ran a restaurant a few years ago. He's a head chef, and this was just sort of surplus equipment from when that restaurant closed that he had around the house. So I said, why don't you sell it? So this was a split deal. It had no cost to me. but I was splitting the profit straight down the middle with my brother-in-law when it sold. So this sold for a total of $532.94. The great thing about this, of course, is because I knew who it came from, and I knew that the environment that it had been used in, and I'd actually used it myself because I'd done a bit of bar work for my brother-in-law as well when he had the restaurant and the pub. I knew it all worked, and I knew it was spot on. I knew the condition was fine on it. It needed a bit of a clean up because it had been under his stairs for a year or so, but that's fine, not a problem. Did that, and it came up great. All fully working, managed to reset it all back to its kind of factory standard settings as well. I found links on Cassio's own website for owner's manuals and user's manuals, service manuals, all completely free of charge. You can download those things from Cassio's website. So again, I made the buyer aware of that so that when they get it, if they need to customize how it's laid out or customize how it's set up, they can do that for themselves by just downloading the manuals completely free of charge. There are websites out there that charge for manuals and stuff like that, but when you can get them directly from the manufacturer free of charge, why would you go anywhere else? So this sold for a total of $532.94. It made a profit total of £409.13, which gave me £204.56 and my brother-in-law £204.56. So that was a great item, a great deal. It's the sort of thing that I do really want to start selling, sort of general retail infrastructure stuff. I was, when Office Outlet closed down, which used to be Staples, then became Office Outlet. When they closed down, I actually went into my local branch and I was sort of negotiating with the manager there to buy up a load of their infrastructure when they closed. So I wanted things like the handheld scanners, I wanted the tills, and I had, I had a reasonable amount of cash at the time and stuff ready to buy this stuff. And the manager was all ready for me to buy it. And then a larger company stepped in and bought all of the infrastructure for the entire group. So I kind of got passed over for that, which is fine because I appreciate that I'm only a small business at this stage, so I can't sort of turn around and say, yeah, I'll buy 40 stores worth of infrastructure off you. But it's definitely something that I'm going to be looking into doing in future because it's... Having worked in retail myself for such a long time, I'm quite familiar with a lot of these products, and I'm quite familiar with the demand for these products and how expensive they can be when they go wrong and stuff like that. So the amount that people want to replace these products, a lot of people, that when they want to replace products in a retail environment, they want like for like, but they don't want to have to spend the money. So selling second-hand retail products and retail infrastructure is actually quite a sensible thing to do because they'll get the product that they're familiar with, that they know works and they know the quality of, but they won't pay new prices for it, and they probably won't even pay as much as it would cost to have that item repaired just to buy a second-hand replacement. So yeah, cool item, great profit, and thanks to my brother-in-law most sincerely for giving me that to sell. 29th of November. Back to some more of my sort of bread and butter items. Again, if you've been with the channel for a little while, you'll know that I'm sort of getting into a lot of the vintage office stuff and vintage business and professional stuff in that sense as well. And this was, of course, no exception. This is the vintage Sharp EL-8100S pocket calculator, part of the LC-Mate range, if you're familiar with calculators. It's manufactured in the 1970s, and it's an LED pocket calculator. So the screen there's not an LCD screen in there. It is literally like almost like a Nixie tube. So it's LEDs in a tube, and then really old school style of display, basically. This was a pocket calculator which took 4 AA batteries, so you can imagine the weight of that when it was actually in use. And honestly, I would say pocket calculator is really kind of stretching it thin because, well, I mean, it was a pocket calculator back in the day, but by our standards today, this thing was huge and weighed a ton. Tested and working, did have a little bit of damage on the back there, which as always I declare with these things. This one cost £1 in a charity shop. It was just thrown in their pound bin. So I thought, if I get this home and it doesn't work, I've only lost £1. But if I do get it home and it works, then happy days. Sure enough, it did. Sold in the sale again, this one. So it sold for a total of $29.24, made $19.59 after shipping and fees, and had positive feedback from the buyer on that one. I think this one's again, 29th of November, different buyer, but another vintage calculator. This is the Acuron 861 pocket calculator, again a 1970s model. This one only took the 2 AA batteries, so it wasn't quite as big as the Sharp. But the really cool thing about this one, as you can see from the picture there, it had its original box, its original warranty card, and its original instruction card as well as the original case. This thing was absolutely immaculate. I don't think really this had ever been used, in all honesty. I think the most use this got was somebody testing a biro out on the back of the box to see if their pen worked, because there was just nothing on it whatsoever. There wasn't a fingerprint on it, there wasn't a bit of dust on it or a hair on it or anything like that. When I took this out of the box and took it out of that little sleeve, it was like opening a brand new item. And even inside was just absolutely immaculate. So I knew I was onto, a pretty good item with this. And there's plenty of resources out there, again, if you want to deal in or have exposure to sort of vintage calculators and stuff like that. There is a collector's market for them. And there are resources out there that can help you not necessarily value them, but they can help you to sort of assess the collectability value of particular calculators and how in demand they are. So on the particular site that I looked at, I think this was about 3 out of 5 for collectability. So that's pretty good, I think, for something to just sort of randomly pick up at a car boot. This one cost £4. So for $43.64, again in the sale, and made $28.84 after shipping and fees. There were no comps for this whatsoever, so there were no completed listings. There were no comparable listings either active. I think there were a couple of Acuron 861s on there, but they were just being sold for parts. Not working, and there certainly wasn't one on there at all that had all of the provenance with it. So I was brave with the price. I put it up at, what did I put it up at originally? $42.99 I put it up at originally, and it did get watchers at $42.99, but obviously one of those watchers pulled the trigger as soon as it went in the sale. So cost £4, sold for $43.64, made $28.84 after shipping and fees on that one, and had positive feedback from the buyer as well. So 2 nice experiences on the calculators there. 30th of November 2019, this is the Country Artists Jack Russell dog lead hook. Country Artists started in the Lake District in the UK, making sort of handmade models of animals and nature scenes and stuff like that. Then later sort of turned into the handmade models that they were making, then became moulds for mass production of items as well. I think I've just randomly zoomed out the camera there, or randomly zoomed in one way or the other. I just managed to knock the screen, so let's do that nice and seamlessly-ish. There we go. I think it's about the same. Yeah, so this was just one of their kind of mass-produced products. This wasn't one of the handmade ones by any stretch. Cost £2. I forget where this came from. I want to say it came from a car boot, to be honest with you. Again, sold in the sale for $22.94, made $13.28 after shipping and fees. People spend a lot of money on stuff for their dogs, accessories around their dogs and stuff like that. So if you have a passion for dogs, if you have a passion for animals in general, or you have a knowledge about animals or a knowledge about the pet industry, there's a lot of money in it. So it is worth looking out for these things. I didn't go out of my way to find this or anything like that. It was just a random pickup. But yeah, definitely look out for things that are specific to people's pets, because we are moving more towards spending more and more and more on our pets as time goes on. Yeah, it cost £2, so for $22.94, made $13.28 after shipping and fees on that one. It was a brand new and sealed item. It hadn't been used or anything like that, but obviously I sold it as used because it... Oh no, I didn't. I sold it as new. I beg your pardon. Sold that one as new. 30th of November again. This is another great item. This is a genuine vintage Morris Mark 1 mini bonnet badge. This was a charity shop pickup, one of those weird random items that I couldn't believe I picked up from a charity shop. It cost £4, sold for $34.86 and made $22.08 after shipping and fees, and it went on global shipping program to Spain. Now, classic car parts are excellent money makers. I think from off the top of my head, there is something like if you've got a... Oh, what car is it now? It's something like if you've got a rear quarter panel or something like that for a Bondi Queep, you can pretty much charge whatever you want for it because they are so rare to actually come up as something for sale that yeah, the people that need them and the people that want them will just pay through the nose for them. But if you don't have the space to store massive car parts, or you don't have the confidence to deal with technical parts or mechanical parts or anything like that, trim is a really easy way of getting into selling car parts, because it will always be in demand. People are always, damaging door moulding, or they're having a badge stolen off their car, or their badge has become damaged on their car. Badges, trim pieces, weather seals, all of these types of things can do really, really well and are always genuinely saleable. When you go into classic cars, that becomes more so, because there are always people trying to restore classic cars as well, and often will want genuine parts to do that. Now, with a brand like Morris, and particularly with this part, because it is for a Mark 1 Mini, the Mini needs no introduction. It is massively iconic the world over, and there are people with original British-built Morris Minis in India, in Spain, obviously, in the USA. They are all over the world. So having something like this, offering it with the global shipping program turned on, is absolutely key. Easy thing to pack and sell. It was genuine. It had the part number on the back, ADA 3850, and the Morris Garage's copyright, so I knew it was a genuine part. Described it as accurately as possibly could. As I say, so for $34.86, made $22.08. Made $22.08 on that one. That's all the Christmas food that keeps rebelling. Yeah, so great stuff. Look out for car parts, but if you haven't necessarily got the space or the knowledge to deal in parts, look at trim and look at badges and, like I say, the rubbers that go around doors. Even floor mats. Floor mats can do very well if they're genuine branded floor mats. If you've got something like a set of Mercedes or a set of Audi mats or something like that, even they can sell for sort of 50 plus quid just for a set of mats. So definitely worth looking out for those types of things. So that's all of the items for November. We'll get into the November grand totals. Now, this is the total cost of all items sold in November 2019. So it's everything that you've just seen in this video, but also everything that's in part 1 of November's sales roundup as well. So the total cost of items there was £240.82. The total value of sales was £2,754.73. And the total net profit in the bank after fees, etc., for November 2019 was £1,782.95. If we look at that the other way around, the total outgoings for November, which is the fees, which is the eBay fees, so the final value fees, postage final value fees, promoted listing fees, the PayPal transaction fees, and the total postage paid out, plus the total costage of items. Costage of items? That's a new word. The total cost of items, so everything that was spent, if you like, in that sense, or everything that was a loss, was $971.78 altogether. But ultimately, that is what ended up in the bank, $1,782.95. So that was a good month. Much better month than October was. September and October, if you've seen the videos previously, a little bit of a nightmare. But going into November, so much better. And it's carried on a little bit into December as well. December's been a good month. I've actually had a couple of sales over the Christmas period as well. Had a sale on Christmas Day, had 2 sales on Boxing Day, and I've had a sale this morning as well, which is the 28th. Yeah, so been doing okay over Christmas, so we'll catch up soon with those sales roundups. I'm also going to be coming on camera soon as well, because I've been challenged by Car Boot Chris to do his 19 probing questions, so I will be probed soon and you will get to see my face on camera. And we'll also get into doing a lot more new content in the new year. I was very mindful previously, like I say, with being imitated the way that I was on eBay. I was very mindful of the content that I was putting out on YouTube because the brand wasn't in any way really protected at that point. Now the brand's protected. If anybody's going out there and just kind of categorically copies me like that again, I'll be able to have something to say about it. So I'm a bit more confident now to be able to produce more varied content for you and different stuff with a bit more information and stuff like that. So hopefully we're not going to just be a sales roundup channel starting in 2020. So that's it for everything for this month, and not quite for 2019, because I've not done December's sales roundups yet, but those will be coming soon. If you did enjoy the video, guys, please do feel free to leave me a like. If you didn't enjoy the video, though, similarly, leave me a dislike. But don't just thumb and run. Let me know what you did like and what you didn't like in the comments section below, and I'll try and tailor future videos to be a little bit more palatable for you. If you really enjoy the channel, do leave me a sub, and don't forget to tickle the little bell icon in the corner, just so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Just a reminder as well, the eBay store link is on screen there for you now, themadtatteronline.co.uk. But for now, guys, that's everything for today. Have a really great day. I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas and continue to have a fantastic new year, and I'll speak to you really, really soon. Take care, have a good one, thanks a lot, bye-bye.